be reading?
Back. Hi everybody, welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia.
So Lia has now toned down her anger from last week's episode about a discovery of witches.
Yeah, and I have found a newfound appreciation for reverse harem.
Yes, have you? When you suggested that the couple in this book should enter into a reverse harem relationship with the other male character, this was the best suggestion you have made ever.
I know. But it had to be done. These people, it had to be done.
I am so on board with that in a million different ways. I want them to live together. I want the guys to also get together. I want the whole relationship to be a beautiful poly dream.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way.
No, it didn't. We read One True Loves by, what is her name?
Taylor Jenkins Reid's?
Taylor Jenkins Reid's.
Yes.
No, Reid.
Sorry.
And
she wrote...
And this book was read by Julian Whalen, who did an amazing job at speed 1.25.
Wow. First of all, I want to say we read a book by this author last year in our book club, which was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I thought was an excellent book. Also made me cry. But then we realized afterwards, I cry from... car crashes of loss. So, note to self for that one. It did not have a car crash in this book.
Did you cry?
I did cry.
I did not cry.
You didn't cry?
No.
Oh my God. The last 10 minutes, it wasn't a sob the way that I was like upset at losing somebody. But the last 10 minutes, I just had tears that just escaped my eyes and ran down my face. And I wasn't like sniffling or anything like that. I was just emotional. And my 6-year-old daughter said, Mom, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? And I was like, it's a beautiful thing. And she's like, what's beautiful, Mom? And I was like, realizing that you can have more than one love. And she's like, don't you know that you can? I love you, and I love Dad, and I love Ivy, and I love Raven. That's a lot of people to love. And I was like, yeah, okay.
About romantic love here, but sure, darling, sure.
We'll cross that bridge in another time.
No, I actually really like this book too.
Yay!
I did. And it's another one of those books that's caused conversations around my house, which I do like when books. And I talked to my husband about it. I talked to my daughter about it. I tried to talk to my son about it. He shut me down. He's 15.
Mom and her books.
He's like, yeah, whatever. Let's talk about video games. But this book is about a woman called Emma Blair.
Yep.
And it's quite early on in the book where we find out that she's engaged to be married to Sam. And she's at a dinner with her parents. And she gets a phone call. And the person on the phone is Jesse, who is her husband who's been lost and presumed dead for the past 3 years and 7 months.
Yeah.
So big fuck. What the fuck do I do now?
I got goosebumps thinking about it. Could you imagine getting a phone call from somebody you thought you lost? Like this is literal coming back to life shit, you know?
Yeah.
When I thought so much about the book that we read before, Full Tilt and All In, and how we just wanted him to come back. I did. I was like, look at that globe. Wish on that fucking universe globe that he comes back to fucking life. I was dying that we lost him. It was not acceptable. And I think I was emotional from that book for like months.
You were not on board with the second relationship.
I couldn't deal with a second relationship. No. And I'm having a hard time with the second relationship in this book too.
And I mean, I did too. Because this Emma, she meets Jesse, she meets Sam kind of first because her parents have
they're all go to school together. First of all, you see them as teenagers; they go to school together.
And her parents own a bookstore, Blair Books.
Yeah,
and Sam gets hired to work extra shifts at the bookstore.
Right.
And at one point, he asks her out, and she just doesn't really answer, and then he will never ask her out again. And she tries to give him some hints to ask him out, but he just never does it again.
And she has the eye for Jessie, but Jessie has a girlfriend in high school, and Jessie has never even like paid 2 seconds attention to her. And then they go to a party together.
Graduation party.
Yeah.
And Sam's there, and she notices him, and then she goes to where her best friend Olive sends her off to grab a beer, and Jessie is right behind her as the police show up. So her and Jessie end up hiding together, and then getting arrested together, and they having to spend time in the jail together. And
they had their first kiss in jail.
Yeah, and when he stands there behind her, and she takes she's taken she's using the keg to get a beer, and she empties it, like she takes the last beer that's there, and he calls her by her name, and she's like, I didn't even know that he knew my name. You know, they've never spoken to each other at that point. And then they share a kiss, and then from that point onwards, it's the two of them.
Yeah,
because they're both rebelling against their parents' expectations of them.
Like, he was a professional swimmer and could have been an Olympic swimmer, and her parents wanted her to work at the bookstore that the parents owned, to take over the bookstore and live in this small town and stay in a small town, and they just wanted out.
Yeah, and he hates swimming. He says it. I hate swimming. I fucking hate swimming.
And she was the first one that he was ever honest about that too, and so it bonded them, and they
want to live in California, so they moved to California, and they
traveled all over the world.
Yeah, she got a job as a travel writer, and he got a job with the production company that does like movies or whatever, I think. So they got to travel a lot for work, and they travel a lot on their own time as well, and basically they go everywhere, and then they get married, and the proposal there with the ring that they found in Barcelona, where she said she didn't need a diamond, and he snuck out to get the ring. I was like,
it was a ruby. It was
so
a ruby,
romantic.
But it was really romantic. And you fall in love with Jessie and her relationship because it just seems like they're just it for each other for the lifelong run, because
they seem to be really getting along with each other. Like,
but not just get along. It's like this extra thing that's like unexplained, because the way they describe her, she's kind of normal, plain Jane, and he's like this super handsome, athletic guy, and he sees no one else.
Yeah.
He is just all in with her, and she's all in with him, and they make each other so happy. And the wedding and the marriage was also like, duh. Like, of course you're going to be married. Of course this is going to be forever and ever long-lasting relationship. And then the day before their 1-year anniversary.
Their first anniversary.
He
goes away on a job in Alaska, because she's been to Alaska and he hasn't been to Alaska. As they're going to their location, their helicopter crash.
Or the helicopter, crashes, go missing,
It crashes, and they find the pilot dead, and they look for him for a few months, I think, before he's presumed dead, and he's like declared dead, basically, because there's no way he could have survived, kind of thing.
And she has, of course, as naturally you would, breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Many breakdowns.
She grieves, like, the descriptions of grief in this book were... I mean, they were on par with the Full Tilt books, where you felt it. Like, I felt the grief. Like, it was bone deep.
It really had a lot of similarities in this book for me with them, because they were also so meant to be together the same way that this couple is. And when she lost him, she lost a part of her. Literally, a part of her completely disappeared. Yeah. Just like he did. And... like you said earlier, we already know that he's coming back because it's being told very early on in the book. Yeah. And then we get her love story with Sam. Exactly. And I mean, I was not on board with Sam. First, can I just say, that scene on the rooftop where she is looking out for him with a telescope, and the sister comes up, that bitch saying, like, listen, your husband's dead. Like, I want to throw that sister off the roof.
But I think this was the beauty of this book, too, because it doesn't just go through Emma's relationship with Jessie and with Sam. It also explores her relationship with her parents, and particularly with her sister. Right. Because they were not close growing up. No. And it takes them being adults, and it takes her going through this loss, and it takes her sister settling down and having a family, and it takes all of these things for them to actually bond with each other and become the sisters they're supposed to be to each other, kind of thing.
listened to this book.
Yeah.
And we listened
At
to it at
1.25.
1.25 times. And I have to say, this is my newest favoriteest thing
Yeah,
that
mine too.
has happened to our listening experience, because this book and the other Taylor Jenkins Reid's book, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I'm gonna guess all of her other novels as well, they're slow.
Mm-hmm.
And not slow in a super boring, dull, like, oh, get this over with way, but slow in the pace isn't rushed. Though the pace in this book was a bit odd to me, because we know that Jesse's coming back. We know that she's engaged to Sam. And so it sort of skips forward a lot in her describing things, because we're just trying to get to the point where we're at the now, where Jesse's home.
Yeah.
And she has to deal with the Jesse and Sam situation. So she says things like, and then we got married. And then there's like a tiny little marriage scene. She says, and we honeymoon in Montreal. Like, it wasn't,
The honeymoon in Montreal is with Sam.
okay, I don't know where she
They go
honeymooned.
to India.
They went to India, okay. But it was like more matter-of-fact descriptions, and then a tiny little dialogue that went along with it. It sort of skipped a lot through. So it wasn't boring in the way that, oh, now we're in the scene like Diana where she gets dressed for 400 pages.
No.
It was...
No real descriptions of getting dressed at all, actually. There was just like one of the sweatshirt at the cabin that she makes Jesse wear, and one where she wears one of his shirts. But apart from that, no getting dressed descriptions at all. I think this should maybe be a new part of this book. We should just have how many descriptions of getting dressed are in this book, to know if they meet the standards that I've set for this, which is you can have a maximum of 2. And one of them should be your wedding dress, which I actually care about.
Yeah, okay. But the pace was at 1.25 fantastic. It wasn't too fast or chipmunky. It was really good to listen to it at that.
It takes away the ability to say the end after every sentence, which I always love.
That's true.
Yeah.
So then she meets Sam. Oh, not meets Sam. She meets Sam again.
Yeah.
Jesse's dead for 3 years, or 2 years at this point.
It's 2 years.
It was
at that
over
point.
2 years.
Yeah.
And she sees Sam in a music store. She thinks he works there. That was kind of a funny scene.
Yeah.
And he doesn't actually work there. He was just there trying to buy a grand piano.
And I mean, part of this was so beautiful because when she meets Sam, he wants to take her out. He's asked her out when they were teenagers once and then never again. And then when he sees her there at the music store, he asks her out again. And she's hesitant because she's not gone out with anyone since Jesse's disappeared. And it's been over 2 years, but, she's still, like, not sure.
Yeah.
So she says, maybe, next week. And here, I'll give you my number so he knows. And then when she's on the fence about this, she goes home and she writes this letter to Jesse.
Yeah.
Basically saying, look, I love you and I will never forget you, but I need to
have
move
love
on.
in my life.
I need to have love in my life. I cannot be stuck here. And this grief has been eating me and swallowing me, and I need to take steps to move on. And this is what she does. Like, she changes her bed, her mattress, because she feels like her grief's been soaked into it and all of this and that. And it's because she's moved home to her parents. And then she starts her life, a new life, dating Sam. And it's a very different life from the life she had with Jesse, and I think this was when Jesse comes back. One of the favorite parts of this book that I had was when her sister, I think it is, tells her that it's not about who you love.
Yeah.
It's about what life you want to live.
Yeah.
Because they're very different, these people. Like with Jessie, she's close to home. She's taking care, like she's managing her parents' bookstore, which she said to Jessie that she never ever wanted to do. But with Sam,
with Sam,
she's happy.
Home.
Yeah,
she's homey with Sam, and she's adventurous with Jessie. And I saw throughout the whole time that she was changing too. And
and I mean, she says it right before Jessie leaves. So she says that maybe we should, like she mentions that maybe we should settle down a bit more, like move back. And he's like, why?
Yeah.
And then he goes off on his trip and he disappears, kind of thing, right?
And so when she's dating Sam, they have like a homey life. Everything is cozy. They read books and they play the piano together and they have baths and it's like really quiet life.
They get cats.
They get cats and she loves cats now and she's just a different person. Like the grief changed her. It sent her back home so that she could have a familiar place to land and for her family to be there for her too. And then she just started to like things. She started to like reading. She started to like having the bookstore and she started to like Sam.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those things, just speaking out of my ass here because I know nothing, but if you lose someone like she lost Jesse where he's just gone, I think the safety and security of routine and knowing where you live, what your day is going to look like, these things are going to be things that you're probably going to look for. Yeah. And I was a bit surprised, honestly, when Jesse came back that he would want to start traveling right away because just for me, if I would have been in an accident like that, I think I would have been, first off, very fucking hesitant to ever go in anything that flies again. Yeah. I would have been like, you're driving me across the country. Like, I am not flying again. Yeah. Like, these things can go down. I've been there. And then, like, just traveling and seeing places, I'd be like, kind of happy to have, running water and food. And,
oh my God.
And I was honestly really surprised he didn't have scurvy, which was my biggest, I spent a lot of time being very worried about scurvy because the way they described this island, because basically what happens is that the helicopter goes down.
Right.
And everyone dies.
Yeah.
And he's in this life raft and he's got food rations in there.
Yeah.
So he drifts, I think it's a couple of weeks or something like that. He's drifting.
Yeah.
So he's moved from Alaska further down south because he's on this teeny tiny little, it's not even an island, it's an islet.
Rock formation. Yeah.
That's just in the ocean. And he
survives.
He survives this and he has this food, but there's no vegetation on this island. It's just rock and sand. So he learns to fish and he's got these rations, but still, that means no fire.
No.
That means no fruit, no vegetables, no nothing. Like, this is scurvy territory. I'm telling you. You cannot just eat fish and not get scurvy.
But he talks about a little bit afterwards in their fight about all the stuff that he had to do and eat and how sick he got. And, like, there was a time period that we don't know about or it wasn't written in the book. Maybe it was not necessary, where from when he was found to when he comes home, there's a long period of time where he's in the hospital and they're doing a lot of things for him to get him healthy again. So maybe he did have scurvy. They just don't explain stuff like that. Because he lost
from scurvy? I have to research scurvy.
He lost his teeth.
Some of his teeth, yeah.
Yeah, he lost some of his teeth. He lost a finger because it got so infected that he had to chop it off. He was bones thin to his ribs and
can
his
lead to
knuckles.
Death from bleeding or infection.
Right.
It says hair follicles, sign of severe malnutrition, specifically a lack of vitamin C. Hair follicles can become clogged with keratin, old wounds may reopen and new sores begin to form. Parts of your body may swell, particularly your arms and legs. If left untreated, scurvy can lead to death from bleeding or infection. He was out there for over 3 years.
Yeah.
And he had rations, which would have had vitamins, but there's no way they would have lasted the rations.
No, he said the rations didn't last that long.
I was very concerned about scurvy, too concerned about scurvy.
But this whole book, I was nervous and concerned the entire time, and stressed. I was super stressed out.
I read this book this summer called White Ivy, where it's about this girl, this Asian American girl, and she gives herself scurvy in America. By just not eating anything nutritious for a very long time. And she actually gives herself scurvy. So scurvy is very high on...
Okay. Now we know that Lia's concerned about scurvy, everybody. Thanks for that. It has nothing to do with this book.
But he should have scurvy, I'm telling you.
Okay, let's put the scurvy aside for now.
I'll drop the scurvy.
So she falls in love with Sam. And this is how she falls in love with him. They're having a relationship for some months. So she says, and after a few months, we fell in love. Abrupt description was so bizarre to me. And then they have a conversation about possibly getting married. He's like, when you're ready, I want you to know that that's my intention, that I want to marry you. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay. And then she's like, so now? And he's like, no, I mean, like, think about it and get back to me. She's like, no, I'm ready now. And so they get engaged. And I think they're engaged maybe a week. They're not engaged long. No. And then that is when Jessie comes actually home. So Jessie lands. She's feeling like a bag of shit because she has a fiance and she has a husband.
Yep.
The conversation between her and Sam is always so intimate. Like, so real, so honest with each other. He's both angry and understanding and upset and heartbroken because he knows that things are going to change because she has her husband back.
Yeah.
Legally, they're not married anymore because she...
Once you're declared dead.
Once you're declared dead.
He cannot be married anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And she had changed her last name back to her original last name as well. Yeah. But he's been gone for so long, and he is holding on to what he knew from 3 years ago. And so he comes back, and he's calling her Mrs. Lerner, and she's like hesitant to kiss him, to touch him, to talk to him. They're sitting in a car on the very first night that he gets home. And he is completely sane from what we can tell in the very beginning. Like, he's just popping right back into his old life kind of thing. But he doesn't want to talk about what happened on the island. And she's like, listen, you have to tell me. I need to know what happened to you. And he goes through this explanation, and it was friggin' devastating. He trained himself to swim so that he could swim far enough in order to be rescued. Yep. And it took him 2 years to get in training form. And at that point, he was about to die from malnourishment. So he knew it was either now or never. I'm either going to die here. Oh my God, scurvy. Now I'm going to die here. So I got to go. And he does, and he makes it. And he says he's being stung by a manta ray over and over and over. And all he's thinking about is that he needs to get home to Emma. Like, how special is this fucking woman? Like, he is on this island, this amazing hero. And enough. She's at home being like, you know what? I'm just going to get married now. Sam, let's just do it. Now I own my bookstore and I'm a homey woman now. So why don't I get married to the music teacher? It's like the perfect life now. Like, I hated how much she changed on a fucking dime. And do you know what I thought about? I thought about you. If you and JF have been together so long, longer than Johan and I, and this couple have been together since they were teenagers. You guys were together when you were teenagers, right?
No, I met him just before I turned 21.
Oh, okay. I thought you were 19. Anyways.
No.
You guys have been together for your adult life.
Yep.
And if JF left for 3 years, just disappeared.
3.5 years, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How much do you think you're going to change?
I mean,
do you think you're going to now live back in like some homey... Are you going to go move to the West Coast and shuck oil? I don't know. Just massive life change is just so bizarre to me. There's no way you would change your personality much in 3 years.
I think you are wrong here. And I will say that, you know, I'm going to turn this on you.
Okay.
If Johan were to disappear...
Yeah.
And be gone for 3.5 years, I'm fairly certain you'd be back in Canada with your family. And this is just for the simple reason that in this situation of uncertainty, because yes, he's presumed dead, but I think I can't even put myself in the mindset of losing someone and not knowing what happened to them. I think in a way it's better dead or, you know,
than not dead knowing is the worst.
And not knowing. I think... with the not knowing, there's always a chance they could come back to you. But what are they suffering in this time? I think it messes so badly with your brain, this not knowing where this person that you love is, that you will go as close as you possibly fucking can to the people that are closest to you, which will be your family most of the time.
Yeah, of course.
And I think this will also fundamentally rewire your brain because this is significant trauma, which will literally rewire your brain.
But she just didn't talk to his family anymore.
No, and this I found a bit weird because I feel like this is where you would have probably tried to find consolation and, you know, support each other.
Like if Johan was missing, undoubtedly I would be here with his family, trying to find him, going through all the things. Like, you can't change your life so fast. Like, they don't have kids and stuff that we do and stuff like that in the book. But for her, for just 2 months later, move and then her life changes to like within the next year and a
But
half. Then she meets Sam, and less than a year later, she's engaged to him. And
but I think this, I
it was very fast-paced for me. Like I didn't
these steps because I think it's also the like the real search for security. Like when she finds Sam and she
But then she's lost herself. Like, is that really herself then?
But that's what she says she is. She is happier like that because this is her new, what she's happy, what makes her happy. And I think when she allows herself to love Sam, because it takes a while for her to even allow herself to be there and to love him and to say it, the fact that he wants to marry her and he wants to make this permanent, I think this search for permanence and for knowing things will stay is something that will be very instinctual if you lost someone. Like, I do.
Sure. I think so, too. I just thought the timing of everything was fast. And I think that then when Jesse comes back and Sam says, we're going to put our marriage or our engagement on hold, and you need to figure your shit out with this husband that's come back.
Free.
Yeah, I'm going to set you free, and if you come back, like, how beautiful is he? He's so beautiful. And no way would my husband be that understanding. Like, never.
But if your former husband came back,
that's true. Who knows?
I mean, you are the usurper at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like and I mean, this is what made it so heart-wrenching. And just when she's with Jesse and when she's with Sam and she's like, I love this person.
Yeah,
and
she
I
loves
this
them
life
both.
and I love this. But then realizing what makes her happy. And it's like the little things with Jesse. It's the insistent on driving without a license. It's the too fast
Jesse's
on the
messed
curves.
up. He just got back.
Yeah.
One day he gets back. Then the next day they go away for 3 days.
And I understand all of this, but
within 3 days is when you're going to
personally-
make your life decision of leaving behind the husband that has been searching for you for 3 years. You're going to take 3 days and be like, we're not the same people anymore.
Left her. At the end of the day, he was the one who said that this is not working. So yeah, she was ready to be there too, but it was him. He's the one who at the end of the day was like, I don't like your hair and I don't like this and I don't like that.
No. It was her she cried about Sam in the
and then
shower.
he goes
He's
out,
like, what the fuck?
And then he goes out to the car, he finds the
and
letter.
reads the letter.
And then he comes back and he's like, I don't like your hair and I don't like this and I would never want to live here. And I mean, I think...
But how does he even know himself anymore? He's been lost at sea.
This is the thing. Jesse upset me so much.
Yeah.
And not even for like the good reasons. Like he upset me a lot for recklessness, for brashness, for like he was very aggressive about wanting to get things back to exactly the way they were before. Which
he's trying to find permanence too.
He is,
because that was his like one lifeline.
I understand that, but I just don't understand it, I think, because I believe if I were to be lost out at sea, I would be like, fuck that shit, never looking at the ocean again. I'd be happy if I never had to see ocean ever again.
And they order lobster, and she's like, is this okay?
Yeah, and they go down to the water, and then when he finds his new life, he's back in California, back on the ocean, he's with the surf. Like, I don't understand him. I think this is my biggest problem. I don't understand him. Like, at first I was like, Team Jessie, this is awesome. They're great together. And then as I'm going through her journey with her, I was like, Team Sam, been there the whole time. Happy for them to be together.
There's a few things in this book that made us know already how it was going to end.
Yeah.
And that is when he meets her and tells her that he just ended a really long relationship. I'm talking about Sam. When Sam tells Emma that he left a long relationship, he says that I'm not the person I was in my 20s that I am in my 30s. And we grew apart from each other, just like he said, are you the same as you were in your 20s? And she's like, oh, no. And in that conversation, I was like, obviously, she's changing and she's not going to be the same person that is meant for Jesse because he didn't change. But at the same time, I think 3 years is too little. Like,
I don't know. You
change, like from 27 to 30, I didn't change my personality. Like from 27 to 35, I haven't changed my personality. Like, I have become more responsible having children, but my personality hasn't changed. Things I like hasn't changed.
You haven't had this trauma in your
No,
life.
that's true. But I had a trauma. We lost my sister's daughter when I was 27.
Yeah.
And I went and did a yoga course and came back and opened the studio. So my career path changed.
It did trigger a life change for you.
But my personality didn't change. I didn't then enjoy doing different things than I did before, that kind of stuff. I think when you're past a certain age, some people take a really long time to find themselves, and some people already find themselves as a teenager. Or even I say to my Ivy that she's already found herself, and she's just 3. She just knows, But I think I found myself probably around 25, 27. And since then, I haven't changed my personality. And I let the shit that used to bother me roll off because it doesn't matter anymore. So I think that the 3 years is too little. And it also, the 3 days I think was too little for her to then make a decision on to leave Jesse. And then she decides to be with Sam and Jesse, then goes back to California. And the way that the book ended was that Jesse calls her, what was it, 8 months later? Something like that. Less than a year later. She's now married to Sam.
Was like, no, but that's not true then. Because their wedding, Sam and her wedding, were like a good 6 or so months away. Or even more than that. From when... It's not
like I said, the description jumps in time, but it did say 8 months after the wedding.
Yeah, so we're like a good year and a half at least in the future at this point.
Okay.
Because that's the thing. When Sam lets her go, he also inquires about cancelling the wedding, and they have until a certain date because it's a popular day. And it's winter, and I'm thinking they're going to have a fall wedding. I think it's October. So it's like, it's almost a year away.
Okay.
And then it's 8 months after that.
But it's fine. So you can fall in love with somebody in 8 months. It's fine. So he's in love with the search for a girl, and he says, I love her so much, can't even see properly or breathe properly or whatever. And that's very cute. And she's already married to Sam now. So she's kind of like, yeah, get over with it, which I found on her part was kind of insensitive. And then he says, I get it now. I get that. I loved you as my true love, and I love this girl as my true love, and you love Sam as your true love, and we can all have true loves. And it had a really beautiful ending where they've accepted their new lives with their new loves and their new situations. And I cried, super cried.
I did not cry. I found it to be beautiful, and I like...
What did you think of her sleeping with Jesse, though, while she was with Sam? Because I wrote here, Lia, who hates infidelity more than anyone I know, couldn't even forgive a blackout blowjob as a teenager who wasn't even together with her in Love in Other Words, the book. You couldn't forgive him. You were like, no fuck you. Anyways. No. How do you feel about Emma sleeping with Jesse basically to bang him out of her system? Is he an ex or is he her husband?
I think like what she said, that it was inevitable. It was going to happen. And I think if she would not have done it, if she would not have kissed him, if she would not have slept with him, I think she would not have been ready to let him go the same way. So I think in a way it was inevitable and it had to be done. And I think there's also a reason why Sam broke up with her, because this is what he did. He set her free so that she could explore this and then come back to him.
I mean, no man is as good as Sam.
No, for sure. But it was good. This was good. I think I gave it 4 stars. Because I'm stingy with my 5 stars. So you should all go out and read it.
Yeah, read it.
Read it. Good. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia. Theme music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.